Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. Learn what mistakes not to make with women in the dating scene with Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. Available in paperback and online booksellers today. I had one of these black single mothers come to the comment section of one of my videos where I talked about the unwritten social rules for black men, and she tried to drop this comment trying to minimize the role of a black man in a black boy's life. And in her comment, she stated that she taught her son the unwritten social rules I talked about in both my Bakari Henderson video and my unwritten social rules video. And when she made that statement, she showed me how arrogant she was, and she showed me how little critical thinking skills she actually had. Because, again, in the video's title it says, Unwritten Social Rules for Black Men. That means only a black man knows what these rules are, only a black man understands what this is, and only another black man can teach another black boy or another young black man these life skills. And the reason why Bakari Henderson lost his life is because his father did not make an effort to teach him these unwritten social rules or these life skills that would help him navigate the world outside of that suburban neighborhood that he lived in around these white people. Because your Bakari Henderson grew up believing in the rainbow, and I made that point in those two previous videos, that those black males who grow up believing in the rainbow, these are the males who wind up getting caught up in things. That's just like these boys who grow up in these single mother households, because neither of them understand the unwritten social rules for black men. When it comes down to black males, they have to understand the unwritten social rules out here. And again, only other black men can teach black boys and young black men those rules, because we know firsthand what a black man has to go through. And we know for a fact that the world is going to treat a black man completely differently than it would a white man, a white woman, a Hispanic man, an Asian man, a Asian woman, a Hispanic woman, or another non-black man or non-black woman, or even a black woman. Because we know for a fact that the black man, when he steps outside of his door, he has a target on his back. And that's because when a black man goes outside of his door, he is behind enemy lines, whether he is in this country or if he is traveling abroad. When that black man steps outside, he is considered an enemy of the state. And this is something black boys have only learn from other black men and interactions with other black men. This is something black boys learn at an early age when they have their father in their life, or like myself, you have a father and an older brother. And when you learn this life skill, you learn how to navigate the world and learn how to avoid certain obstacles out here, because you understand that you are in hostile territory and you have to be very careful when you go outside in the world. And this is something many boys from single mother households don't get, and this is what many boys who grow up in places like the suburbs, like Bakari Henderson, don't get. And because they don't get these life skills, it can put them at their lives at risk, or it can get them killed, like Bakari Henderson. Now, I remember a case here in New York City of another young black male who was growing up in the suburbs of Long Island. And this young black male went to one of these parties, and he started talking about how he liked this white girl. And one of these Italian guys who was in the neighborhood had heard about him talking about this white girl, and he gathered a group of his friends to go and attack this black boy. And he wound up running all the way back to his father's house, and then he told his father about it, and his father saw this mob outside of his door trying to get into his home, and he goes to get a gun, and he goes and he shoots this individual and kills him. And in the aftermath, that man, John White, had to do a year in prison due to that illegal gun that he had, and because he miseducated his son. Now, if he had educated his son in the life skills of being a black man, he wouldn't have wound up going to that party talking about white girls and how he wanted to get, how he liked this white girl, or let that rumor float around so that those white knights wouldn't have anything to agitate them. He would understand that, again, you are behind enemy lines, and you cannot be sitting around here talking about white women and how you are so attracted to this white woman, and that because that's going to set these beta males off, and that's going to put your life at risk. And that's what that boy in the John White case, that's what that son put his father's freedom at risk. He cost his father his freedom and put his life at risk because he was not educated in those life skills. The same thing with your Bakari Henderson. Even though there might have been a father in the home, the father believed in the rainbow, and he didn't understand. This is a black male. This is a black male. He's getting ready to go out into the world, and he has to understand how the world sees him, how the world views him, and he has to understand how the world is going to work regarding him. Once he understands that, his life is going to be not as bad as the guy who doesn't know, but he's going to know something that will help him. And that's what I try to do in the video, is explain to other people that when it comes down to a black man, he is behind enemy lines, whether he is in the U.S. or abroad, and that he has to learn how to navigate things for himself when he gets out there. Because if he's out in this enemy territory, he has to understand that there's a protocol he has to participate in. He cannot go out here thinking he can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants, because any interaction or action that he takes may be the last action he takes on this earth. Because if he goes into a store, he has to expect that he will be followed around. He has to expect that he will be watched. And that's why he has to be very careful when he touches merchandise and make sure that he's going to go buy something. He's going to go buy something. He can't go in the store and just go call himself looking around, because what will happen is he will run into one of these store owners, and that may cost him his life, or it may wind up to lead up to him getting into a confrontation, or it could lead to him getting arrested. So when he goes out here, he has to understand that he is seen as an enemy, he is being watched as an enemy, he's being perceived as an enemy. So he has to watch himself when he goes out in places. And when you look at guys like Bakari Henderson, they were not taught this life skill, because he decided he had this fashion business and he wanted to go to Greece, and he didn't understand you have to research these countries before you go into them. A man who understands the life skill that he's behind enemy lines and he wants to travel, he's going to go and do some research on that area. And if he finds out that that's extra hostile territory, guess what? He's not going to that place, because he understands that if he goes there, he's going to put his life at risk. And if he goes there, he's going to be in danger. And Bakari Henderson didn't get that life skill and didn't get that from his parents, who should have told him, look, don't go to this country. This country has a collapsed economy. It's a hostile environment. And as a black man, you should understand, again, you are behind these enemy lines, and these people are not going to be favorable of you. If something goes bad, you are on your own, and that's going to be the end for you. This is the same thing that goes on here in America. There are certain parts of America certain black men just can't go to on their own. And even here in New York, there were certain parts of New York you couldn't even go to back in the day. I remember Bensonhurst with Yusuf Hawkins. He went into that neighborhood thinking that he could go and look at a used car, and that cost him his life. Same thing with a guy, I think Michael Stewart or Michael Griffith, who went to Howard Beach, and he found out that he couldn't go to that area. This is something that black boys need to understand, that look, yes, you have some freedoms, but those freedoms are more limited than those of white men, white women, Hispanic men, Asian women, Hispanic women, non-black men such as Arabs and Indians, and even black women. Those people can go to different places, but you cannot go to those places, because if you go to those places, you are an enemy of the state, and they will engage you directly. They may not engage that black woman because they don't see her as a threat, but they see you as a threat. And that's why you have to make sure you think about where you go before you go over there. This is not about being a coward. This is about preserving your life and looking out for your safety. And that's all a man will do when he's putting himself first. And these are the life skills that a man is going to learn when he has interactions with his father, older brothers, and other men. Because these are the things that only another man can teach another black man. Because only another black man understands that, because a black man has experienced that, a black man knows what that is, and he can teach his son these life skills because he has used these life skills himself to go out here and survive. So he knows what these life skills are, and he can prepare them and use them to teach his son. Only a black man can do this, and it really irks me when these black single mothers go out of their way to minimize the role of a black man and devalue the role of a black man, because a black man's role in his son's life and other black men's lives is tremendous. It has value, it has worth, and it is very important for people to understand the value of black men to communities and what they contribute to communities, because when black men are in the community, they can prepare their sons for life out in the world. When they are in the community, they can teach their sons about what it means to be a man in the world. When they are in the community, they can prepare their sons for life out in the world. A lot of women buy into this propaganda created by this white feminist movement and sit there and believe they can teach their boys to be men, but that's not the case at all. And we can clearly see from guys like your Bakari Henderson and the young man who was John White's son out in the suburbs, what happens when men do not take the time to go out and prepare their sons for life out in the world. When those men go out here and believe in false concepts like the rainbow, and they don't go out of their way to teach their sons wind up doing things that cost them their lives, or put the lives of their fathers at risk, like in the case of John White, where the father did not sit down and teach his son about how the world works and how you cannot be out here talking about white women. It can cost that man his freedom, his life, and his safety. Because when it comes down to America and when it comes down to the world, not much has changed regarding black men. Black men are still seen as enemies. Black men are still seen as hostile. Black men are still seen as dangerous. And you have to prepare your son to understand that the world does not see him as a friend. It sees him as a foe. And if they see you as a foe, you have to have a strategy to go out here to make a living for yourself and survive in the world. If you want to see me make more of these videos, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to learn more about men's issues, you can go read some of my books in the Simp series on Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.